Alright, so welcome back to my YouTube channel, Code Through. So today we're going to be looking at the Python module of the week, and today we're going to be talking about the OS module, which is a very wonderful module. So wait, now while we're talking about OS module, have you ever written a code and it worked perfectly well on the system, but when it gets to your friend's system and it's crashed, or you spent hours debugging your file and your file path is not working? So your friend's system might have been a Windows while you're using a MacBook, or the other way around. So I will show you how to evaluate this problem and how to make sure that regardless of where you write this, where you write your code, dealing with files, it can still work anywhere on any system without being messy because you use some backslash that is not accepted on MacBook or on Windows. So that's what I'm going to show you in this video using the OS module itself. So now, the OS module is just a Python package now that bridges your operating system. So think of this as a way that, okay, now you can talk to Windows, your Mac, or your Linux without really like caring about which one you are using. That is what OS module is about. Because the way that OS module, like the way Windows, Linux, or Mac manage their path is different. So talking about this same OS module right here. So now, I want to talk about three main things that they can be used for, and I'm going to type them out here. So the first thing right here is that file path that works everywhere. So you have a file path that will work anywhere you are, in any operating system you are, and the second one is like reading environment variables. So that's the second thing that this files is used for, reading environment variables. And the third one is creating and managing directories. I'll just go ahead and type creating and managing directories right here. So these are the three major things that we use this OS module for. And I'm going to be showing you each and every one of these problems and how to solve each and every one of them. And there will be an extra tip at the end to make you like a god in programming. Don't forget to wait till the end to see that tip. Right. So the first thing here now is to manage file paths that works everywhere. So imagine now we normally have a file path, something like this. And I'll just say, okay, my file path can be something like this now. And can just have my C drive, then have this column. Okay, this slash now that goes into users, goes into Drew, then goes into something like documents. But because I'm using this, and I want to use like double slash because this is a string, so this is an escape sequence, something like that. So documents right here. Then I want to have my main file.txt. So this, it should not be hard coding your file path like this in programming. This is a bad practice. You should not be doing this because looking at this now, looking at it exactly as I'm saying it now. On Windows, you might have a file path like this, document slash data.txt. This can happen on Windows, right? But on Mac, it's going to be the other way around. So I'll just go ahead and copy this to show you how this will be on Mac. So if I should go ahead and copy this again, on Mac now it's going to be this slash. So if you hard code your value like this, it might work on Windows. But if you get to a MacBook, it won't work. So that's why you're exploring OS module again. So what you want to do right here now, just go ahead and comment here the right way. So what you want to do here is go ahead and import your OS. And in this OS now, what you want to do is to say file path now is equals to os.path.join document, then the data, the file itself, .txt. So this is the file path now. So if I go ahead and say I want to print out this file path, let's run this program now. You can see what we are getting, document or file path. Can assure that if this was to be on Windows, it's going to give me in this format because it's actually using it in a way that it will be all right with it. So I will also get directory regardless of the system we have. I can just say to say current directory right here is equals to os.getcwd, which is getting the current working directory. That's what the CWD stands for right there. So I can just go ahead and print current working directory right there. Then if I go ahead and print out this code now, I will see current working directory, and this is my current directory right there. This is the current directory I am working on. You can see we are getting that quite all right. So and if I don't want to like, okay, now I want to be the full path now. and I want to join these things together. I want to build this full part together, and I want to join this together. I can assure you that if I'm running this on a MacBook, I'm currently using a Windows, on a MacBook on a Linux, it's still going to work quite alright. So I'll just go ahead and say full path right here is equals to os.path.join. So I can also to say how to join, okay, current directory, then I want to add it. Alright, let's say something like data, then what else can I add here? Let me just say my v is CSV file called users.csv. So if I should run this now, okay, I need to print out full path first. So if I should run this now, you see that I am getting this full path right here. Because this is my tutorial, this is my current directory, adding the data part, then adding the file part itself. Now see, this is working quite alright. So I'm just going to go ahead and comment out my printing out here. And let me show you a quick demo tip. And talking about this same OS path now, what if you want to check if a directory folder exists or not? All you need to do is to say if os.path.exists, full path right there. You can just print out files exist, right? This is going to check if a path or a folder exists. So right there, I can just set to say else. If it does not exist, I want to print out something else. File does not exist. So I should go ahead and print this out now. File does not exist. You can see that, right? So let me run this now. I say file does not exist. But if I should open my folder here and say, okay, let me create a directory called data. And under this directory, let me create a file called, okay, users.csv. So if I should go ahead and run this again, I'm seeing that files exist, right? So like that, you can just check, and you can also check if something is a file or is a directory. Just as simple as this. So if, okay, I'd say if os.path.isfile, just print out, okay, let's comment this out. We won't be needing this anymore. And you can decide to say if os.path.is directory. Let's run this now. So this is a file and this is not a directory. Can you get that now? But if I should just remove this last pointer, you see that we'll be getting it is a directory. Okay, let me check this directory. So the directory should be like this. So I'm checking if this data is a directory in this current place. So you can see the directory exists. Alright, so that's the first way that we can use OS module, which is file path that works everywhere in our program. So I'm glad you like that. So now let's go to the second way that we can use OS. And this second way, we are going to use OS as environment variables. So now talking about using OS as an environment variable, which is number two. Now reading environment variables. So the first thing when you're working with an application, I'm a backend engineer, and most time I will work with like Django or Flask. So when I work with an application, when you're building something, you don't want to store your database, your API keys. You don't want to hard code them. Never should you hard code them. You don't want to say something like database password is equals to my password. 1, 2, 3. This is a bad practice. This is very bad. You don't want to do this and don't want to say API key is equals to whatever. Okay, let's say I'm saying something like SK live and blah 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 blah. Sometimes you never want to do this because this is actually harmful to your code. Because I'm going to might push this code to GitHub and this API keys will be exposed everywhere. But the right practice now, what you want to do is use this OS. I'll just say here, wrong practice. I'll say a wrong practice, right? So the right thing you want to do when you are working with things like this is to import your OS once again. So when you import your OS now, your OS module right here, you want to read from the environment, right? So I just say read from environment right here. You want to read these variables from the environment because you should have stored this variable in the environment. And if you are hosting this application you're building, you should be able to manage your environment variables too on the server you're hosting it on. So I'll go ahead and can I go ahead and say API key right here now. Instead of hard coding this API key, I can use os.environment.get, or at times I might want to use something like os.getEnv. So you might want to use any of these, right? So this is actually to give you like, okay, what you want. And the DB password, I can just say DB password instead also to be something like this, right? So right now I'm able to get this key from the environment variable. And even yes, while working with something like Django, you can decide to say debug mode. So is this application in debug mode? Because you don't want to be in debug mode when you're hosted on the server. So you can actually like have different options from when it is stored on your local computer and when it is actually running, like that. So this is the second way at which you want to manage, you want to use your OS module. This is the second way you want to use your OS module. So here we see reading environment variables. And now the third things that this module will help you do is managing directories. And what do I mean by managing directories? This is actually like creating and managing directories exactly. So this will help you. Let's say you're working with, okay, now let's say I'm working with an application that is similar to something like Anki, and I want to be able to like import, export, save my decks, save my Anki decks. And if you don't know what Anki is just a flashcard application. That's not important right there. So I can decide to say os.make directory right there. Let's say I'm making something like, okay, let's say I'm making a log, right? I want to manage my logs in an application. I think that's something you should be more familiar with. Okay, this should not be a comment. I can say os.make directory right here, logs. And if I shoot my directory here, the only directory we have here is virtual environment and data, which was one I created previously in the last video. So now I can see that now we have logs because I decided to create logs, right, in my program. I decide to say, okay, now I want to create directories plus parent plus child. So I'll just go ahead and comment it right here so you can know what I am doing. Create nested directory. That's having a parent, then plus having a child. So you want to create nested direction, I can say os dot make directory, os.make directories data. Okay, I have data. So let's see. I'm trying to make raw again inside the data. Then I want to have January inside this data. Then I want to have this function as if exist is equals to okay. And what is this exist equals to okay doing? So if exist equals to okay, it's going to just like means that no error if this directory already exists. So I don't want any problem with this directory already existing. For now, we know raw is like data is existing, but raw is not existing. While January also is not existing. All right. And another thing I just like to draw along is I can actually list all the files in a directory. So I can just say files here now is equals to os dots. All right. So just want to list the directories in only data, the files in only data itself. So right here I can just come down and say print out files. So let's run this and let's see. So now I created this raw and I have January, right? January directory inside this raw. So now when I print like list print files, you can see I have a directory called raw and I have this users.csv in my files. You can see how wonderful that is. So we can just like have it like this, and this is actually very powerful in managing files based on if you're building a desktop application with Python with a framework like tkinter, Kiv, or Qt5, yeah, by Qt5, something like that. You can use it to work through like this. And one more powerful thing I would like to show you is how you can work through a directory tree with Python using this OS module. So now let's say I want to work through a directory tree. So I can just say for root threads files in os.walk, and instead let's just work through data itself. So if I'm working through this data itself, what I want to do is now I want to check for a particular file. So I'll say if file name, sorry, okay, yeah. So what I want to do right here is print out the folders, print out the directories, print out the files. Right. So I'll just go ahead and say print out right here. I want to say folders. So it's going to print out folders right here. And this is going to be the root. Then I want to go ahead again and print out subdirectories. Just say subfolders. Yeah, so that's alright. And we'll call this down. Okay, this is good. They want to print out files. Alright. Then let me just print out something to demarcate this. Alright, so if I should go ahead and run this now, you will see we actually walk through this folder. So when we go through the folder data, we saw a subfolder called raw, and the file size of subfolder called raw was users. Then we go through the folder data on raw under data. Then we saw a subfolder called January, which does not have a file. Then we go through the folder January again, which does not have any subfolder, and that does have a file. So you can see how powerful this is. So yes, that's the end of these three powerful things I wanted to show you in this video: managing file paths and that work everywhere, reading environment variables, then creating and managing your directories. So now let's go to the bonus tip I have for you today. So for this bonus tip now, I'm just going to share three things with you. Okay, about three or two things with you. So I'm just going to say, okay, how can you check the size of a file? So I'll be needing this anymore. So I'll just comment this out so we can focus on these three tips right there. So I can decide to say I want to check size now. So let's say I want to check the size of this USV, users.vsb. Can I say os.path.getSize. And I want to just go to data, then users.csv. Right. So I can just decide to say print out size. So if I should run this now, I will get the size of this file. And this is 0 because I have nothing inside this file. The file is not populated. So it is 0 byte because it's in byte. It's returning it in byte now. Alright. So the second tip for today is showing you how to split this part. So now, let's say I have my part. Okay, let's use this raw January. So this is the part I have now. And I want to split this part. So I can just say, okay, directory os.path.split. So I want to split this part. I can decide to say, okay, name. I think it's better if I use this user.csv here. I can say it's better to say name now and extension. So I'm splitting the text again. Alright, directory file name right here. And I'm splitting it into two. So I'm not splitting file name again. And right here, I can just come down here and print out everything I want to print. Let's print out name extension. Let's print out again directory and file name. So let's run this and see. So we have the name here and we have the extension. This is actually very useful. Let's say you are okay. Now look at ChatGPT. Now you can upload any document there. They get the type of document you upload based on the extension. So this is like kind of a logic that you can use behind that. So I can say, okay, now once you upload a document, I can expect a picture, which can be JPEG, PNG. I can expect a PDF. I can expect a Word document. So I'm going to determine that based on the extension of the file that was uploaded. And this is the directory. This is the file name. This is the file name that we splitted. So yes, that is the second tip I'm giving you for today's video. And the third tip is just you can remove or delete. You can delete a file and you can enter a directory by just simply saying, okay, let's just say how to remove a directory right here. I can just say how to remove this directory by doing like this. So I'll comment this out right here. Let's run this. January no longer exists there. That's because I've removed that particular directory. But let's say I want to remove a particular file also. I decide to say os.remove. I decide to remove the users.csv, and yes, it no longer exists right there. So this was rated back because our creation code is still active. And so that's the end of today's video. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Code Drew. See you in the next video. Bye bye.